All right, let's get talking. Out on a Lemba, Y chromosomes traveling south to Cohen modal haplotype in the origins of the Lemba, the Black Jews of Southern Africa. Art G. Thomas, Tudor Parfit, Deborah A. Weiss, Carl Skorecki, James F. Wilson, Magdal LaRue, Neil Bradman, David B. Goldstein. Goldstein. Summary: the Lemba are a traditionally endogamous, meaning that they marry within themselves, group speaking a variety of Bantu languages who live in a number of locations in southern Africa. They claim descent from Jews who came to Africa from Senna. Senna is variously identified by them as Sana in Yemen, Judea, Egypt, or Ethiopia. A previous study using Y chromosome markers suggested both a Bantu and a Semitic contribution to the Lemba gene pool. So they say both a Bantu and a Semitic. So these are not Bantu and Semitic are here not presented as being the same thing. A suggestion that is not inconsistent with Lemba oral tradition. To provide a more detailed picture of the Lemba paternal genetic heritage, we analyzed 399 Y chromosomes for 6 microsatellites and 6 biallelic markers in 6 populations: Lemba, Bantu, Yemeni Hadramat, Yemeni Senna, Sephardic Jews, and Ashkenazic Jews. The high resolution afforded by the marker shows that Lemba Y chromosomes are clearly divided into Semitic and Bantu clades. Interestingly, one of the Lemba clans carries at a very high frequency a particular Y chromosome type termed the Cohen modal haplotype, which is known to be characteristic of the paternally inherited Jewish priesthood and is thought more generally to be a potential signature haplotype of Judaic origin. The Bantu Y chromosome samples are predominantly, over 80% YAP, and include a modal haplotype at high frequency Assuming a rapid expansion of the Eastern Bantu, we use variation in microsatellite alleles in YAP positive SY8G, SY81-G Bantu Y chromosomes to calculate a rough date 3,000 to 5,000 years before the present for the start of their expansion. So YAP is what most black men have. However, Semites, for the most part, or what they're referring to as Semites, do not have YAP. So I'm going to show you what YAP is, if they show it. It says, the Lemba once referred to as Kruger's Jews because President Paul Kruger, president of Transvaal during 1883 to 1900, was thought to have discovered them. How did he discover some people? But anyways, are commonly referred to as the Black Jews of South Africa. Their claim of Jewish origin is based on slim evidence, a persistent oral tradition of uncertain antiquity, and a number of suggestive customs from circumcision to food taboos, which appear to be Judaic but could be Muslim or indeed, in the case of circumcision, African. Mandivinga, 1983. Lemba tradition holds that the tribe came from Senna in the north by boat. The original group is said to have been entirely male, with half of their number having been lost at sea. The remainder made their way to the coast of Africa. So they're saying that they came from some other place called Senna. All who came were males. Made their way to the coast of Africa. Once there, they rebuilt their city of Senna, later leaving it to build a second city of the same name. Senna is variously identified by the Lemba as Sana in Yemen, Judea, Egypt, or Ethiopia. So they have different claims of where it is. So the idea of saying that they came from Israel, That's this is oral tradition, so you it's not reliable in the sense of they don't have a consensus. The first clear and unambiguous reference to the Lemba as a separate tribe and perhaps polity is from a Dutch report from 1721, Bang, 1977. Today, the religious life of the Lemba is highly syncretic. Many of them belong to various Christian churches, e.g., the Zion Christian Church and the Pentecostal groups, whereas some in Zimbabwe are Muslims. Others, however, claim to be Lemba by religious practice as well as by ethnic identification. The religious practices of these Lemba do not have much in common with Judaism as it is practiced elsewhere. There are thought to be 50,000 Lemba spread over South Africa and Zimbabwe, with some closely connected groups in Malawi. Parfit, 1997. At some time in the past, they became scattered among the more powerful neighboring tribes where they served particularly as medicine men, iron and copper workers, traders, and officials with ritual responsibilities. They traded throughout southern Africa. The Lemba have 12 clans, some of which appear to correlate with place names in the Hadramawt. The Hadramawt, like you know, is a place in the Arabian Peninsula. The Buba clan is recognized as being the senior clan, both the oldest and for some ritual purposes the most important. Parfit, 1997, has claimed to have discovered the original center of Lemba in the eastern Hadramawt in the Yemen. They go into Y chromosome markers, a lot of technical stuff. Won't bother you too much with. Going on down. Yeah, going on down. So you just read this about lay Jews, means the common Jews who are not claiming to be descended from Levites or Aaron. It says it's absent or at low frequency in Yakut, Mongolians, Nepalese, Armenians, Greeks, and Cypriots. Authors, unpublished data, and interestingly, in Palestinian Arabs, A. Nebel, D. Philon, M. Ferriman, A. Oppenheim. Personal communication. The combination of the presence of the CMH at high frequency in the Lemba and its absent in neighboring Bantu populations would be supportive of Lemba claims of paternal Judaic ancestry, especially if its frequency is relatively low in other Semitic groups. So, in this case, the other Bantu around them do not have it. So this lets it know that Semitic genes are not the same as Bantu genes if this study is to be believed. Okay, so Bantu samples were collected February 1998 from paternally unrelated males of various chieftainships in the Pretoria area of South Africa who spoke a Bantu language. The subjects included 2 men born in Senegal who spoke Wolof, a non-Bantu language, as their first tongue. There is concern over the use of the word Bantu. We follow Cavalli Sforza et al. In noting that although Bantu was originally a linguistic group, its use to define population groups can be justified on the assumption that a geographic expansion spread both the Bantu language and a group of related people. I tell you where they got the Yemeni samples from, Hadramawt, and they mentioned Ashkenazic Israelites and Sephardic Israelite samples were collected from self-designated, paternally unrelated, but otherwise randomly selected males in Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Israel. In all cases, appropriate informed consent was obtained before samples were collected. Today, Jews can be divided into 3 castes: Kohanim, the paternally inherited priesthood; Leviim, non-Kohen members of the paternally defined priestly tribe of Levi; and Israelites, all non-Kohen and non-Levite Jews. It says, since 90% of the Jewish population are Israelites, Bradman et al. Impressed, it was decided for the purpose of the current study that in terms of the data already available, Jewish populations are best represented by males of the Israelite caste. Data on some of the Ashkenazic and Sephardic Israelite samples have been the subject of publication elsewhere. Skareke et al., 1997, Thomas et al., 1998. Now, a lot of you who are claiming that Bantu are Israelites um, are ignoring the fact that the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic people who you don't think are Israelites are who they are being compared to. Population designations. Ashkenazic, these Jews follow the Ashkenazic rite associated with Jewish communities in Northern Europe. Sephardic, these Jews follow a Sephardic rite associated with the Jewish communities of Northern Africa and Asia. The two communities have, to a great extent, been isolated from each other for over 500 years. Semitic, unless otherwise noted, Semitic here will refer to the Jewish, Yemeni, and Sinna populations together. Yemeni and Sinna samples collected at the Seyun Teachers Training College are referred to here as Yemeni. Samples collected at Sinna as Sinna. Let me go on, blah, blah, blah. I'll go through all this. There's a lot of stuff that majority of us don't understand. Just stuff about Yap. Genetic stuff we don't get. Some of you might get it if you're a geneticist or taking that in class. But anyways, through all this, I have to go because they're not really showing you exactly what YAP is. So I'm just gonna show you. So you've already seen that it's telling you let's see. What is the YAP marker? Haplogroup DE. So this is what is the YAP marker. Haplogroup DE is a human Y chromosome DNA haplogroup. It is defined by the single nucleotide polymorphism, SNP, mutations, or UEPs. M1, that's what YAP is. M145, that's 205, M203, P144, P153, P165, P167, P183. DE is unique because it is distributed in several geographically distinct clusters. An immediate subclade haplogroup D, also known as D-CTS3946, is mainly found in East Asia, parts of Central Asia, and the Andaman Islands, but also sporadically in West Africa and West Asia. Other immediate subclade haplogroup E is common in Africa and, to a lesser extent, the Middle East and Southern Europe. The most well-known unique event polymorphism, so I guess unique event means that it must have happened one time or something, I don't know, that defines DE is the Y chromosome ALU polymorphism, that's YAP. The mutation was caused when a strand of DNA known as ALU inserted a copy of itself into the Y chromosome. Hence, all Y chromosomes belonging to DE, and their subclades are YAP positive. That's YAP positive right there. All Y chromosomes that belong to other haplogroups and subclades are YAP negative. So the Lemba have both this marker as well as YAP negative. So they do not all have the same origin. There's no way they all came from some guy named Abraham, Isaac or Jacob. Possible origin, and you can get into how they date these things through something called molecular dating. But possible place of origin, they have it as Africa or Eurasia, because there's some disagreement on what side of the Red Sea it originated. The age of haplogroup, but there is, some would say, much stronger evidence for Africa, and some would say much stronger evidence for across the Red Sea and Eurasia. The age of haplogroup DE, previously estimated at between 65,000 and 71,000 years ago, was later estimated at around 68,555 years ago, and most recently at around 76,500 years ago. So this is a very long time ago, and for those of you who are young earthers, before your God even existed. The Yap insertion, or the universe even existed according to your belief. The Yap insertion was discovered by scientists led by Michael Hammer of the University of Arizona between 1997 and 1998. Hammer published 3 articles relating to the origins of haplogroup DE. These articles state that Yap insertion originated in Asia as nearly as 2007. Some studies, such as Chandrasekhar at Atal means in others, 2007, cited publications by Hammer when arguing for an Asian origin of the Yap insertion. The scenarios outlined by Hammer include an out-of-Africa migration over 100,000 years ago, the Yap plus insertion on an Asian Y chromosome 55,000 years ago, and a back migration of Yap positive from Asia to Africa 31,000 years ago by subclade haplogroup E. This analysis was based on the fact that older African lineages, such as haplogroups A and B, were Yap negative, whereas the younger lineage haplogroup E was Yap positive. Haplogroup D, which is Yap positive, was clearly an Asian lineage found only in East Asians with high frequencies in the Andaman Islands, Japan, and Tibet. So the Andaman Island people, I would show pictures of them to you, are black, whereas the people of Japan and Tibet have more of a Mongolian appearance. So you really can't use haplogroups to define races as we understand them, because the mutations that define haplogroup E were observed to be in the ancestral state, and haplogroup D at 55,000 years ago was considerably older than haplogroup E at 31,000 years ago. Hammer concluded that haplogroup E was a subclade of haplogroup D and migrated back to Africa. A 2000 study concerning the origin of Yap positive mutation analyzed 841 Y chromosomes representing 36 human populations of wide geographical distribution for the presence of a Y-specific ALU insert Yap positive chromosomes. They also analyzed the out of Africa and out of Asian models for the Yap mutations. According to the authors, the most ancient Yap positive mutations was found in the Asian lineage of Tibetans, but curiously not in Japanese lineages. More recent Yap positive lineages were distributed almost equally in Asians and Africans, with a smaller distribution in Europe. The scientists concluded that the information available did not allow one to decide between the out of Africa or out of Asian models. They further suggested that the Yap positive mutation had already originated 141,000 years ago. Contemporary studies. Since 2000, a number of scientists began to reassess the hypothesis of an Asian origin of the Yap insertion and to suggest an Asian and African origin. Underhill et al., these are all geneticists, identified the D-M174 mutation that defines haplogroup D. M174 allele is found in the ancestral state in all African lineages, including haplogroup E. Discovery of M174 the discovery of N174 mutation meant that haplogroup E could not be a subclade of haplogroup D. These findings effectively neutralized the argument of an Asian origin of the YAP positive based on the character state of the M40 and M96 mutations that define haplogroup E. According to Underhill et al. In 2001, the M174 data alone would support an African origin of the YAP insertion. So we're going on down, down, and keeps doing another focus. The model supporting an African origin or an Asian origin of the YAP positive insertion both require the extinction of the ancestral YAP chromosome to explain the current distribution of the YAP positive polymorphism. Paragroup DE asterisk possesses neither the mutations that define haplogroup D, or haplogroup E. If paragroup DE was found in one location but not the other, it would boost one theory over the other. Haplogroup DE star has been found in Nigeria, Guinea-Bissau, and also in Tibet. The phylogenetic relationship of 3 DE sequences has yet to be determined, but it is known that the Guinea-Bissau sequences differ from the Nigerian sequences by at least one mutation. Will et al. State that the discovery of DE star among Nigerians pushes back the date for the most recent common ancestor, MRCA, of African YAP chromosomes. This, in his view, has the effect of reducing the time window through which a possible back migration from Asia to Africa could occur. So all this DE and E has nothing to do with the Lemba as far as anything about, as far as them being not Bantu, as far as them being from Israel. Chandrasekhar et al. 2007, I'm not sure if it's Chandrasekhar or Chandrasekhar, have argued for an Asian origin of the YAP positive. They state the presence of the YAP insertion in Northeast Indian tribes and Andaman Islanders with haplogroup D suggests that some of the M168 chromosomes gave rise to the YAP insertion in M174 mutation in South Asia. They also argue that YAP positive migrated back to Africa with other Eurasian haplogroups such as haplogroup R1b1 18 to 23,000 years ago, which has been observed with especially high frequency among the members of some groups of some peoples in northern Cameroon, and haplogroup T 39 to 45,000 years ago, which has been observed in low frequencies in Africa. Haplogroup E at 50,000 years ago is considerably older than these haplogroups that has been observed at frequencies of 80 to 92% in Africa. In a 2000 study, Peter Underhill and Thomas Kivisild stated that there will always be uncertainty regarding the precise origins of DNA sequence variants such as YAP because of a lack of knowledge concerning prehistoric demographics and population movements. However, Underhill and Kivisild contend that with all the available information, the African origin of the YAP positive polymorphism is more parsimonious and more plausible than the Asian origin hypothesis. But parsimonious means basically simple, more straightforward. Go past this. A 2018 study based on analyzing maternal and paternal markers, their current distribution and inference from the DNA of the Altai Neanderthals, argues for an Asian origin of paternal haplogroup DE and paternal haplogroup L3. The study suggests a back migration into Africa and a following admixture of the native Africans with immigrating peoples from Asia. It is suggested that DE originated about 70,000 years ago, somewhere near Tibet in Central Asia. Additionally, uh, focus, the authors argue that the presence of DE star in Tibet and that Tibet shows the greatest diversity concerning haplogroup D supports the origin of DE in this region. It is further argued that the haplogroup E haplogroup E is of Asian origin, and that the haploid diversity of haplogroup E supports a stronger Asian male gene flow. The authors conclude that this supports an Asian origin and may also explain signals of small percentages of Neanderthal DNA found in northern and some Western Africans. A 2019 study by Haber et al. Argues for an Asian origin for haplogroup DE star based in part on the discovery of haplogroup D0. Where's that? Found in three Nigerians. According to the authors, a branch of the DE lineage near the DE split. A 2019 study by Haber et al. Argues for an African origin for haplogroup DE star, based in part on the discovery of haplogroup D0, found in three Nigerians. According to the authors, a branch of the DE lineage near the DE split, but on the D branch, as well as on an analysis of Y chromosome phylogeny, recently calculated haplogroup divergence dates, and evidence for ancestral Eurasians outside Africa. The authors consider other possible scenarios but conclude in favor of a model involving an African origin of haplogroup DE